implements and tools the Aboriginal people had. They had some very clever systems actually. The first one I'll show you here, this is a hunting spear. It's made of bean wood. It's quite a light sort of flexible sort of wood. You get a bit of, you know, quite strong, but as I said, a bit of flex in it. Now, I wouldn't want to have one of these rammed through my thigh, let alone a punishing spear. A punishing spear, to give you a comparison, I've seen various punishing spears, usually about that much thicker. Yeah, and the punishing spear would have these very sharp, like barbs and edges and bits coming off. So it'd be, yeah, your leg would be like shredded meat. Basically, it'd be, yeah, do some real damage. As I said, that usually was a fatal punishment for the men when that happened. So, but yeah, this one is a hunting spear, so just used for hunting. Now, on its own, you think, well, this could be pretty limited, wouldn't it? You know, because I mean, even if I was pretty strong and could get a good throw, I'm going to be lucky to get probably much beyond halfway to the coach there, you know, with a good hard throw. But the Aboriginal people developed a system, very clever system. Notice on the end there, you can see a hole.
Yeah.
I'll just turn it around so you can see. See the hole in the end of the spear there? Now, when I've showed some people groups this, I see some people have a bit of a light bulb moment, and they say, "Oh, that's where they put the poison." No, no, the Aboriginal people, not like the people in the Amazon or something like that. No, they didn't use poison here. Why the spear's got the hole there is because they would use that for attaching the throwing implements. And there's two types of throwing implements I'll show you. Here's the other one. So these are the throwing implements. This one here, this one's a bit of a one-trick pony. This one's called the pickery. It's just used for throwing the spear. That's it. But as a man, I could say if I was an Aboriginal man hunting, I'd probably would have wanted one of these. This is a woomera. Now the advantage the woomera has, you'll see it's quite similar in the style, but you can notice the woomera is a bit longer and a bit deeper. And the reason for that is the woomera it can do more than just throw the spear, because, you know, say I had a really bad day on the hunt, the winds were fickle, the kangaroos smelt me or they heard me or something, you know, the hunt didn't go very good. I'm not going to want to go back home to my beloved, and I'm not going to want to go home empty-handed to the group. That's not going to look very good. I'm not going to be very popular if I do that. So what I'd do is if the hunt wasn't successful as a man, I'd be gathering some fruits or whatever I could find on the way, and then when I get home I'd be going to my other half and say, yeah, I'm not a totally useless man, you know. You know, so just give you an idea of how the spear thrower is used.
Are those made of wood?
Yes, they're made of wood. These are made of bloodwood, which is it's a good hardwood. It's pretty, you know, good for building these sort of things. These aren't very heavy. They're quite light, whereas some of these other ones are made very, very solid and very heavy. They're made of a different wood, and I'll come back to that. But basically how the pickery here, I'll show you how the pickery. So what they do, you can see it's got these attachment here. Now this is bound on using a mixture of sinew from the kangaroo's back leg. They use like that sinew from the back leg of the kangaroo, and also a bit of resin from the spinifex grass. This grass here is not spinifex. This is an introduced grass called buffel, which is dominating this area. But you guys, when you go down to Uluru, you'll see spinifex. That's what the Aboriginal people would have burnt, and they get like a resiny glue out of it. Here's this one, the woomera here has got a lot of it on there. Gives you a good sort of grip there, you know, that's spinifex resin. So they use the spinifex resin and the kangaroo sinew, and basically, so the spear just sits on lightly. You don't push it in really hard, just sits on there. So that's the starting of the throwing position. Starting like so, and then when they throw it, they'd release, and it gets this extra impetus in the throw. It's quite an art, I can assure you. We don't throw this one a lot because this spear is quite old and getting a bit delicate. So yeah, we just keep it in good nick. But yeah, that gives you an idea of the throwing position. So with this pickery, with these throwing implements, you can sort of double or even triple the range of your spear. It's really, really handy. You know, it's a good, clever system. So that's the pickery and the woomera. Sorry, mate.
Are you going to shoot the kangaroo?
No, I'm not, mate. I said we don't throw the spear. It's starting to degrade a bit already, and These are old implements. You just can't get these anymore. The Aboriginal people aren't making these anymore. They used to use like carving implements, like this one here. They used to like you can see there again. They've got spinifex resin, and there's a bit of quartz there. So that's how they'd file down the wood. Like we'd use a rasp or a file. Hard yakka, mate. Really hard work making these things. So these days the Aboriginal people don't tend to make these anymore, and understandably they don't really need to. So these are very, very hard to come by. Things like this.
Do you have any information on how accurate they were?
Well, with the skilled throw, they'd be. The men were quite skilled at these, and needed to be. I mean, you think about it; it's a pretty obvious thing. If you don't catch much food, you're probably not going to survive. So the good hunters were the ones who survived and then married and passed that good genetics on to their children. So that's why a lot of the Aboriginal people, like, it's amazing. You look at the younger Aboriginal people even these days, and they got very good hand-eye coordination, very good at a lot of sports for that reason, because they got that really good hand-eye coordination. It's literally bred into them. And you find a lot of the Indigenous peoples are like that. They have those really good skills, hand-to-eye coordination, with their feet as well. Very good coordination. That was very important. Good skill. All right. So as I said, sometimes they would go into battle. Now, when they went into battle, as a man, certainly, and some of the women even, but the men definitely would have these. This is known as a wilkie or battle boomerang, or some people call it a number 7 for obvious reasons. This is a really mean machine. This one's actually quite ceremonial. This one's a lady, Audrey, who's not here today actually. I think she's been a bit ill lately, but she gave this one to my colleague as a bit of a gesture of friendship actually. And you can see it's all painted up and looks quite nice. But usually when I've seen these wilkie, they're usually bare wood, very sharp. These edges here, I wouldn't be able to do this on a typical wilkie. They'd be cut my hand. Very, very sharp, like a knife blade. So coming across an Aboriginal man with one of these, a wilkie, I'm going to want to have one of these. I'm going to have, my shield, to protect myself. Now, I remember when my colleague first showed me this, and I thought, well, gee, that looks a bit inadequate. I think I'd want it something about that wide, and about that sort of, But I'll hand this around, and you'll see why it's not made bigger.
Oh goodness!
Yeah, it's heavy, isn't it?
It's very heavy.
It's made of mulga. It's made of hardwood, very solid. Like someone goes, you need something solid to protect yourself. So yeah, the shield there is not made bigger for that reason, because there's a limit to how big you can make it because of the weight.
That would certainly protect it.
Well, you hope so,
Yeah.
because someone's going to be coming